Man gets beaten by punching bags 50,000 times every single day, yet no one expected that after training non-stop for 3 years, he would leap from the weakest F rank to possessing S rank combat power. To him, powerful wyverns are nothing more than toys. He can casually toss one straight into the upper atmosphere, but because he has always been cultivating and never left the mountain, and his monstrous masters never once praised his strength, he genuinely believed he was still weak. It wasn't until this day, when he learned that the E rank adventurer promotion exam was about to begin, that Jack finally had a chance to go down the mountain. Only then did he remember that he was still officially an F rank adventurer. This exam was undoubtedly the perfect chance to test his training results, but the moment he arrived at the guild, the receptionist recognized him at a glance. It turned out that 2 years ago, they had been co-workers. Back then, when she heard Jack quit, determined to change careers and become an adventurer, she was genuinely shocked. After all, in a world where people naturally became adventurers in their teens, Jack didn't make that decision until he was 30, abandoning over a decade of counter work without hesitation. Before she realized it, 2 years had already passed. Just as she was about to ask what Jack had been through during that time, a drunk suddenly staggered over to harass her, telling her to forget work and come have some fun instead. Seeing this, Jack quickly stepped in to smooth things over, while calmly telling the man to cool down. He casually placed a hand on the drunk's stomach. For Jack, who had worked at the guild before, this kind of trouble was nothing new, but what he didn't expect was that the drunk collapsed on the spot as soon as he finished speaking, instantly drawing a crowd. Assuming the man had simply passed out from drinking, Jack didn't think much of it, but unbeknownst to him, right after he left, a palm print caused an uproar inside the guild, because that armor was made of solid steel. No one could believe who had the strength to do that. It was then that someone recognized the drunk. He was a former A-rank adventurer wanted for violent crimes. Others didn't notice anything, but the receptionist had seen it clearly. She distinctly remembered Jack placing his hand on the man's stomach. As suspicion formed in her mind, Jack had already arrived at the testing grounds. The attack test was simple. Contestants were told to strike the sandbag with full force, and their power would be judged by how much it shook. Because the slime sandbag had excellent shock absorption, they were told not to hold back. Jack was very familiar with slime sandbags. In his understanding, gold-colored ones were the toughest, while green ones were the weakest. He had never hit a green one before. Over the past 2 years, he had only trained on gold ones. That had been his master's requirement. Back then, the goal was simple. If he could damage a gold sandbag, his physical body would be considered fully trained. Every day, he had been forced to punch it 50,000 times. Even now, thinking back on it made Jack uneasy. Just then, the examiner announced the start of the test. The first examinee used enhancement magic to strike, and earned a not bad from the examiner. The second was far more impressive, appearing with an aura the moment he stepped up. It turned out he was the rumored second son of the Duke. It was said that at 11, he already possessed C-rank level mana. The moment he began, he unleashed his ultimate move, third tier magic, Hellfire. As the name implied, first tier magic was the weakest, and each tier grew exponentially stronger. Being able to use third tier magic at such an age was something no one else present could do. Yet despite the dramatic buildup, the result was underwhelming. But this wasn't because he failed. This was simply the true power of third-tier magic. A genius, indeed. Hearing the examiner's evaluation, Jack began questioning reality, because in his memories, the magic his masters used was on the level of nuclear weapons. The two weren't even in the same dimension. Finally, it was Jack's turn. But before he had taken 2 steps, the examiner stopped him, citing his age of 32. Under normal circumstances, mana only grows when trained at a young age. After that, improvement is nearly impossible. That statement struck Jack's sore spot. But once he had made his decision, there was no turning back. No one knew what he had endured over the past 2 years, yet he had survived it all. Starting late didn't matter. To him, it made no difference at all.
何歳から冒険者が立って何歳から新しいことを始めたってそうだろう
When Jack struck the sandbag, it didn't move at all. He thought the sandbag might be defective. This scene left the Duke's son completely dumbfounded. A 32-year-old man had stolen his spotlight. But after thinking it over, he relaxed. Defense magic was his true specialty, and the upcoming defense test would be his stage. That confidence vanished the moment the test began, because Jack's defense was equally terrifying. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would never believe that Jack, using only F-rank level magic, could block the examiner's 4th-tier spell without a scratch. To better gauge Jack's magic level, the examiner prepared to use his strongest 5th-tier spell. The massive commotion drew the chief examiner over, asking what was going on. This kind of noise shouldn't exist in an E-rank exam. When he learned this was caused by an F-rank adventurer, he stood there in disbelief. Meanwhile, Jack had already finished the written exam. This part didn't worry him at all. After all, his years as a clerk weren't for nothing. He was confident he'd get a perfect score. Sitting beside him was one of his masters. But before they could chat for long, the Duke's son suddenly approached. He angrily accused Jack of stealing his spotlight. He had planned to make a grand debut in this exam, only for Jack to ruin everything. As he spoke, tears welled up in his eyes. Seeing her brother upset, the Duke's daughter, Jenny, became furious. She arrogantly demanded a duel with Jack, insisting he must pay for humiliating her brother. And of course, a duel needed stakes. Jenny declared that whoever lost would become the winner's servant for life. As a second-class knight of the kingdom, she had absolute confidence. Converted to adventurer ranks, she was equivalent to B rank. Hearing this, Jack instantly panicked. He still believed he was only F rank, but seeing through his accidental bragging, the white-haired master told him to hold back and recall the past 2 years of training. The moment those words were spoken, nightmarish memories flooded Jack's mind. Just thinking about it made him nauseous. But precisely because of that, the master asked if he still felt nervous. As a member of the strongest team on the continent, how could something this small stop him? Hearing that, Jack's heart gradually settled. Though he didn't know his true limits, he found the courage to face Jenny. The duel began immediately. After saying she would go easy on him, Jenny warned Jack to watch her speed. In that regard, she rivaled A-rank adventurers. It wasn't that Jack dodged. She had deliberately missed as a greeting. Seeing Jack's confused expression made her brother burst into laughter. He thought Jack was simply overwhelmed by her speed. After all, his sister was known as the Yellow Flash, the fastest woman among B ranks. Satisfied, Jenny declared she wouldn't miss next time. She launched another lightning-fast kick, but what she didn't know was that in Jack's vision, her speed looked like a turtle crawling. He even felt it was slower than walking.
でも確か先行とかなんとか言ってなかったっけ。これで
リック様かわされた。しかも完全に見切っていたような。いやそんなはずはありませんわ。